Here's a great story. Last night, Sage Therapeutics, a biopharma company that's focused on treating central nervous system disorders, which are very hard to treat, got FDA approval for the first drug, a postpartum depression injection that we market as Zulresso. The stock barely budged in response. In fact, it pulled back a few bucks because, well, the drug was considered such a sure thing because the data was so great. Sage released some incredibly positive clinical trial data in January, which catapulted stock price up 42% in a single day. And the darn thing kept running over the next 4 weeks. Now that we know Zulresso will be commercially available sometime this summer, I think it changes the equation here. Postpartum depression is a terrible condition. Sage's drug is expected to instantly become the standard of care here. I can't tell you how special this is because it's so much faster acting than other antidepressants. Plus, the company has an intriguing pipeline. They're also working on treatments for major depression. Talk about another tough thing to treat. Parkinson's, sleep disorders. I bet the stock has more room to run. Let's take a closer look with Jeff Jonas. He's the CEO of Sage Therapeutics. Hear more about the drug and what it means for the future of his company. Dr. Jonas, welcome back to Mad Money. Good to see you, Jeff. Have a seat.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, congratulations. When I see somebody who's really changed many people's lives, I got to congratulate him. And this is really a terrific story. Tell people what there was before and what there could be now for a disease that a lot of people know is, like I say, it's been around forever and it's never been treated.
Well, firstly, thanks again for having me.
Of course.
And I think the first takeaway from this is postpartum depression is the most common medical complication of pregnancy. And the leading cause of death after pregnancy is suicide. And if you think about the standard of care today, you're talking about standard antidepressants, which can take weeks to work, or psychotherapy. And despite that fact, there has never been an approved therapy specifically for postpartum depression, which is what Zulresso is targeted at.
Now, let's go over this notion of suicide, because since I've met you, you're one of the few doctors who's willing to talk about it. It is a taboo. It is a wrong taboo, because what happens is people who ideate suicide feel like they're alone. Right. You obviously knew that this was a problem. You were willing to address it, and you can cut down the number of people who actually kill themselves.
Well, the tragedy of all mental health is that it's often treated like a second-class disease.
Okay,
right?
Great.
You know, these are life-threatening conditions. Depression is the leading cause of morbidity in the first world in the workplace. So when we thought about this, we said, is there a way that we can rapidly correct the symptoms of postpartum, get women better? If they need support, then their mind is in a place to get that support. So what we did was we developed Zulresso, and what we saw was you saw a response, as you said, within hours.
That's amazing. Now, one of the things that somebody was saying to me, but Jim, it's a 60-hour drip. Who's going to do that? I think that actually is a very short time to take care of a longer-term problem.
Well, that's exactly right. If you think about this as a medical problem, right, the leading medical complication, if someone has a gallstone or someone has a seizure, you're not thinking twice about getting help. And, you know, we speak to a lot of these women. I've had the privilege of speaking to these women, and they all say the same thing. We would rather get better quickly. It's not an inconvenience, than suffer in silence.
Okay, so $34,000. Again, I want this stuff put in context. There'll be people who say, who is this guy, Jeff, that you like so much? He's charging $34,000. To the system, what do these people call it cost?
Well, if you think about
what... neither you or I look at it like that, but I need you to address this.
Well, one of the things you think about is postpartum depression doesn't just affect the mother. It's a multi-generational disease. It affects the child, the spouse, the family. It keeps people from work. So, and we've spent a lot of time looking at the pricing. We've spoken to payers. And when you think about what we potentially are offering, rapid response, one-time therapy, getting women back home, you know, we don't hear any resistance to that. In fact, there's a lot of enthusiasm in order for these women not to suffer in silence, but to get better.
How about going back to work if they want to?
And go back to work, take care of the child.
Be part of society. Now, you're going after major depressive MDD. Now, we know J&J just had this Spravato, which is good. And by the way, the VA just approved it, which is what I think most of us recognize as a big issue. Again, because you cannot, the taboo of suicide, if you can stop it. How does this work versus, say, the way Spravato works?
Well, firstly, you know, as a physician, I think the renaissance of treatment for depression is better for patients. It's a great thing to have more innovation. It's important to remember, esketamine is targeted towards a different population, treatment-resistant depression.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't really affect us in that regard, but it does change the treatment model, getting people to think that there are new options and new opportunities to treat these women and treat these patients.
Now, how do we get the word out? How do people know? I mean, will doctors know? Again, you're dealing with a community that didn't think there was anything for this and may not think that a 60-hour drip is the right thing.
You know, again, I view this as a medical issue. These are women who are suffering in silence.
Right.
And we have to change the dialogue. We have to challenge 100 years of conventional wisdom, get rid of stigma. And if you can get people better by saying we're correcting a chemical imbalance, that goes a long way to saying it's not your fault. There's something we can do for you.
Okay, I want people to know how important this is. Put me back, say, 4 or 5 years. People thought you thought about doing this. Did anyone think that you could solve this?
When we started, no one believed it.
No one.
No one believed it. And I think this is one of the challenges and the opportunities. How do you change the dialogue? How do you tell people depression, postpartum depression, life-threatening disorder, something you should treat, don't suffer in silence, and you have a right to get better as quickly as possible.
All right. Well, next question. Will we miss Gottlieb as the head of the FDA?
We've had a good relationship with the FDA. They're professionals. If you think about people like Gottlieb in the FDA, they're like football coaches. They've seen it all. Right. And so I think they'll find a great replacement, but he's been a good asset. All
right, terrific. I want to once again congratulate to Dr. Jeff Jonas, the CEO of Sage Therapeutics, and to all the people out there whose lives will be saved by this drug. Mad Money's back in. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.